That's on a lighter note. My name is David Williams. I am the big talker. For those of you that like bios, I'm sorry. I don't put out plenty things in the bio because let me speak for myself. All right. So I've been talking my entire life. That's why it's big talker. Even when I did not know that it was going to be a source of my livelihood, I've been talking my entire life. And so when I was given the topic, I was told from stage fright to spotlight, and then storytelling as an effective tool for communication and audience engagement. I started to say, you know what, let me find an earliest reference for when I first understood what stage fright was, but even when I did not have a full consciousness, at least I could tell that I knew what the feeling was. So I just remembered something. I grew up a Redeemed Christian Church of God boy. And let me tell you how.
Hallelujah.
Yes, hallelujah. Mine is very simple, right? I grew up in Lagos, Falulu Road, literally 10 minutes from the Redeemed Church by leg, not by foot, by leg it is, right? So 10 minutes trek from my house was the Redeemed Christian Church of God, and you know Redeemed Christian Church of God, each parish has a name. So it was Garden of Peace Parish. That Redeemed Christian Church of God was the zonal headquarters, and it had a school, and it was called the Peaceful Garden School, right? So we attended Redeemed Christian Church of God, Garden of Peace Parish. I went to the primary school, Redeemed Christian Church of God School, Peaceful Gardens. So I grew up a redeemed boy, let me put it that way, right? So I spent my entire early childhood in the RCCG, infantry, army, whatever it is that you want to call it. And then one thing that I know was always prominent for us was camp. If you're a redeemed person, camp, right? So there was camp for church. Like a lot of you who attended the church, you know that there's the redeemed camp for church. But if you went to the school, there was camp for the school as well. It's the same camp, but we always had it around March, whenever it is that Daddy Adeboye's birthday was coming. So the concept is that every single redeemed school would travel, if you could, especially the ones in Lagos, with your school all the way to camp if your parents allowed it. So we would come in the build up to Pastor E. Adeboye's birthday. We would do a mini Olympics. We would march against other schools. We would run against other schools. We would do relay. We would do height. It was a 4-day activity. And because current evidence does not support it, I'll have to say it myself. I was a runner.
Wow.
Yes, I will dust you. Don't try me. But I was a runner. I did. I ran all the way to secondary school. I was in Lagos Varsity. I have the medals in the house to prove it. I like to post it on my Instagram story once in a while to remind people that, I may run out of words, but it's not the first time I started running. But I've been running my entire life. Yes, thank you. I've been running my entire life. Sack race champion, amongst other things. But I'll get to the point of the story. Besides that, I also was the child that did everything. So they saw me in school presenting. They saw me on the track running. They saw me marching. And people always said that thing, that my sister would be the small princess in the marching band. I'll be the one that hold the sword and stand behind. And we still have those pictures at home. So I did everything, right? And then when there was choreography, I danced in the choreography.
He lives in you.
Thank you, you know. And then I also sang in church as well. So people who were in the Redeemed School would see me present in the school, who come to church on Sunday, would see me presenting in church on Sunday. It is the basis of my experience now. I was 9 years old, managing backstage comedy shows for Julius Agu when he was doing it in the same church as I was 9 years old. But I was doing everything. So my earliest memory of stage fright, I was asked to come present an entire Bible recitation on Sunday in front of the entire church. Normally it'd be Thursday service or a Tuesday service, but it was a Sunday service. And so I stood in front of everybody after I had tried my best to cram Isaiah 45, because I cannot forget it till this day. And I came up because then I was so obsessed with Will Smith, the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, the American speaking culture, and American comedians. I came up with an American accent that I did not earn. An American accent that I picked from watching Will Smith. And I came up and I said, "Thus says the Lord to his anointed, to Cyrus his right hand have held." And my mom is somewhere just smiling and looking. And people are asking, When did he come back? Come back from where? But here's what I remember. I wasn't the only one given an entire chapter of something to recite. I was one of 4, and all of us stumbled. But the difference was, I stumbled, but I continued. Whenever it is I got to somewhere that I couldn't quite remember, I would pause. I did not understand the power of a pause then. I would pause, everyone would clap, and I would literally, my mom would say, I would enjoy the applause. But I was trying to remember my next slide. And then when they stopped clapping, I continued. Because I crammed. But I'd find that my other age mates would stumble and do, Auntie, should I start again? And then turn. Because there are videos from it. Anyways, the point I'm trying to make is this. 2 of the most exciting things that used to happen for us at the time, for me, was going to camp, because we'll go to run. We'll run against RISS, Redeemed International Secondary School, because they were the ones that beat everybody. We hated RISS. They had the largest band too as well. Very noisy people. They'll come with big drums and be singing, do RISS, boom. And you'll be annoyed. Why? For small thing what they do, now they bring drum, now they hire people. So them they dust us. And they were secondary school, we're primary. But that was not the point. The idea was, I remember the feeling right before we were going to camp. And I remember my last camp experience, because I had to come with my little sister. The night before, they had gotten me soap dish, sponge, new brush, roll-on and stuff like that. We're going to pack. And I had packed, and we were watching Lion King in the house. And I packed, and everything I had packed, I didn't go to the room to sleep. I slept on the bag that was packed. Because somehow my heart was beating fast. My palms were sweaty, right? I was excited, right? But my heart was beating so fast. I felt like I was going to vomit. Do you understand? That kind of excitement. But then I realized that my palms were sweaty. My heart was beating fast. I felt like I was going to vomit right before I had to go and recite Isaiah 45. And then it is the base of what I'm trying to explain to you today. Your body does not understand the difference between fear and excitement. It gives you both in equal measure, and it tells you to interpret it. Your body does not understand the difference between excitement or fear. It gives you both in equal measure and gives you the opportunity to interpret it. Because the feeling you have right before you have to take a very important flight is the same feeling some of you had when they asked you to come up here and pitch for 2 minutes. It is the exact same feeling. The exact same hormones are released. The endorphins, the adrenaline, the noradrenaline, all of those are released when you're excited and when you're afraid. It's the fight or flight response. I remember the first ever communications course I did at the University of London, and I was told to understand fight or flight response. They put us in an uncomfortable situation. Can you swim? No. They put us inside water. I'm like, do you want to kill? For communications, one level now they push person inside swimming pool. But it was for me to understand my fight or flight response. Then I was trained on breathing. I did not stand in front of an audience to speak until the 3rd week of the course. Why in God's name are you people taking me through military drills for a communications course? It was understanding my body, understanding my voice, understanding the way my body reacts to stressful situations. And so I'll take you through 3 things that will form the base of how I understand stage fright to spotlight. Now, you've probably heard them before, but I've bent them a little bit to my own will. I call them ABC. It's quite simple. A, avert anxiety. Avert means to push or fight or avoid anxiety. Anxiety is what you get when unpreparedness meets nervousness. And let me tell you the honest truth. Every single speaker who cares about speaking in front of people gets nervous. I challenge you to tell me anybody who does it and say they do not. And I've told people who care to listen, people I've taught, people I work with. I said the day I do not have my heart racing, my palms sweaty, or my head feeling uncomfortable before I speak anywhere, even here, I will stop speaking. Why? Because it shows I no longer care about it enough. But the difference between feeling what I felt before I came up here and anxiety, which is what will kill you in front of anybody, is unpreparedness. If you mix unpreparedness with your already nervous body, that is an immediate anxiety. It's where your palpitations turn into difficult breathing. It's where sweaty palms turn into stiffness. It's where your body can no longer move, your throat becomes dry, and you can't even remember the things that you already know. You must prepare for every platform. Every single one. There is no small one. Nervousness mixed with unreadiness brings anxiety. B. It's two parts. You either believe or you be delusional. B. You either believe or you be delusional. Either way, ensure that you are telling your body a different story than the reality. The difference between the fact and a story is one, I am scared. Or how Shakespeare would write it, my heart raced like a horse. My palms were sweaty, like I had just drenched them in the rain. And my mind was nowhere, and it had deserted me. But then I took a moment and I realized that wasn't fear. It was my body preparing me for the stage I was about to set. That's the difference. You must make your body believe what you need to believe in that moment. One of my favorite TV series is Ted Lasso. I don't know who's ever seen it, yes? Who's seen Ted Lasso, yes? Amazing movie. Amazing series. There's a quote that's taken from a particular footballer. He has anxiety, great anxiety. And then a sports psychologist was brought into the club. For those of you who do not know, Ted Lasso is based on a fictional football club in England. An American coach who's never coached English football was brought in to coach them. It's beautiful chaos, comedy, drama. If you get the time, please, by all means, watch it. So, a footballer who was nervous went to see a psychologist. And then he came forth from that psychology, from that whole little session, from that little psychologist office, with a simple quote he told himself before every match just to be able to calm his anxiety. I am a strong and capable man. I am a strong and capable man. Should I tell you why? Because your body will believe what it wants to believe. Your mind will also take whatever information it is given. Let me tell you the difference between somebody who says the first thought that comes into their head and you is probably autism. People who are autistic, people who are very vocally autistic, may not be able to control the impulse, or people who have Tourette's, for example, may not be able to control whatever it is that they are thinking coming out of their mouth. If you know anybody who has Tourette's syndrome, they say the first thing that comes into their head. I have a comedian who I watch who has Tourette's syndrome. He's the funniest person. Because the intrusive thoughts that you think you have, he acts it out. And then it's the funniest thing because he goes on cooking shows, he goes on baking shows, and they would bake a very beautiful pie, and you look at it, and they'll say, no, please don't do it. And he'll carry his head and bang into the pie. Not because he wants to, and then at that point he's apologizing to everybody, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do this. But the difference between him and you is that you can control what your mind actually takes in by telling your mind the story that you want it to hear. Should I tell you why? I don't want to deep dive into image perception and what the media is feeding you and all of that. But the mind is not as powerful a tool as you want to think it is. It is great. It processes a bunch of information, but the mind does not filter as good as you think it does. Should I give you a quick example? I'm going to ask you to not do something. And I beg you as much as you can, don't do it. Anybody who is able to not do it, send me your account number. Alright? I'll ask you, don't do something. If you're able to not do it, send me your account number. Are you ready? Yes. Don't think of an elephant. 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 Isaac, don't think of an elephant. Stop thinking about elephants. Don't think of the large trunk. Don't think of an elephant. Don't think of an elephant. Who here did not think of an elephant? You're sure? It did not cross your mind? Should I tell you why? Should I tell you why? The fact that I said, who here did not think of an elephant, and you guys raised your hand, it shows that your brain processed it and you brought it back out to me. You thought of an elephant. Because you raised your hand. Did you not raise your hand? Exactly. Because you were able to take in what I gave to you, you thought about it, and then you did what? You answered. If you did not think, your hand will not come up now. But did you answer when I said raise your hand if you did not think of an elephant? Exactly my point. You can't help that part of you. I'm just trying to explain that that is the subconscious mind. You can't help it. You will think of an elephant. You must be able to tell yourself something enough times to be delusional enough to believe it, or until you actually believe it. Because sometimes you don't understand what your subconscious programming is going to tell you. And then C, the very important part. C, control and courage. Control and courage. The first part is control. Control your controllables. I heard that somewhere and I liked it, and I've kept it my entire life. Control your controllables. Meaning the things that you know are within your sphere of control, control them. I'll give you a funny example. I was doing a media training for a politician recently for him to be able to go speak somewhere. And I realized that me watching the videos of him sitting down to answer questions and speak, and him standing, were different. When he was standing to speak, he was more rushed. When he was sitting, he was more relaxed. And then standing did not just mean he was more rushed, he was more agitated. And so I said, you know what, let's do this experiment time and again. And so I made him speak in front of his small staff, just his chief of staff and a couple of people, for like 4 different times on 4 different things. And he didn't know what I was doing, but I kept giving him speech. And I said, please, could you test this speech on us? His speeches for different things. And by the 3rd speech, I noticed that he got angry and he started pacing. Like a child. Have you ever seen when you tell a child, and then here's the funny thing. Do you want to know a weird fact? I changed his shoes. Just that. Something, I don't know why, but I thought about it and I asked her, are you uncomfortable? Are your shoes uncomfortable? They say they pay me for leg. Yes. So we changed his shoes. And he stood for an hour. Spoke. Stood for 2 hours. Spoke. Became almost as comfortable as he speaks when he was sitting. Control your controllables. You cannot control the fact that you will not always be sitting or standing whenever it is you have to address people, but you can control the type of shoes or kind of clothes that you wear. You can't control the mood of whatever it is that you are going to as an MC before you get to a wedding. So eat before you go to a wedding so that they will not give you food and you'll be angry. Control your controllables.
They won't ask you why you love to.
Control your controllables. I'll pivot to that in a moment. We'll get to that. Control your controllables. Every single thing that communication psychologists will tell you, that even the type of food, when they say understand your body, that certain types of food you eat as a human being make you uncomfortable speaking at your own voice. Do you know that? I know mine. I know certain foods that if I eat before I speak, I get heartburn and I get agitated. So I rush what I'm speaking and it makes me uncomfortable. I know that for my own self. You have to be able to be aware and control your controllables. The second C is courage before confidence. Courage before confidence. Everybody always thinks, you know what, to be a great speaker, you have to be confident. I don't want to have stage fright. I have to be confident. When they say face your fear, I don't face it all. Acknowledge the fear. It is why they say for you to become a better speaker, for you to become more confident as a speaker, speak. It is a quote I saw when someone was saying, you know what, Lord, I asked for strength, you did not give me strength. And he said, I'm testing you now so that you become strong. You have asked God for patience, and God now brings you a boyfriend or a girlfriend that is very annoying. And you say, Lord, I asked for patience, I did not ask for this. This is how you test if you are patient. You ask God for strength, and then you realize that your whole year, that's also fight they fight. Waiting they really happen. How will you know if you have the strength if they have not tested it? Confidence comes after you've done the thing. But ensure you have courage first. Confidence is overrated. Seek courage first. The confidence will come after. That's the ABC of how it is done. Now, because of time, I'm going to end with three things. Number one is going to be storytelling. Number two, very personal to me outside of the ABCs that are public, very personal for me for how I've prepared, for how I've done what I've been able to do, and for how I've had success speaking in front of people. This first part is storytelling. I was at an event a couple months ago. And they had several ambassadors, a couple governors as well. So it's one of those events where you have to announce who is who more times than you actually have to say anything. His Excellency, this. It's one of those events. And then it's one of those events where the agenda will change anytime. So we had somebody from the Ministry of, I think, Creativity come up and speak about creativity, which was his presentation. And so the ambassador of Belgium had to leave. And we were told that he had to speak now. And I've come up with another presentation in mind. Something set in mind to call up my next speaker. And we had just talked on creativity, and the next person that was supposed to come up was somebody who was a creative. So I pivoted, you weave stories. We've talked about creativity, now let's see it in action. So that was my whole pivot. There was nothing else prepared in mind, and then somebody just came and slipped a note. Call up the ambassador for Belgium. And I'm already speaking about the person that spoke about creativity. And in that moment is what you have to understand about stories. You must know more than you think is necessary. Know more than you think is necessary. Read more than you think is necessary. One day, I think I have an obsessive nature like that, and somehow it helps me. One day I saw something when somebody was talking about a part of the uterus I did not understand, and I spent the next week reading as much about the female reproductive system as I possibly could, for no reason. At some point, when I now finished all the materials I had consumed, I'm like, why in God's name do I know more about fallopian tubes now than I know about the male genitalia? I was just reading so much, and I'm like, what in God's name? But somehow I felt like at some point it would be relevant. So back to the story about the Belgium ambassador. I'm slipped the note, I'm talking about creativity. I'm supposed to bring up an ambassador. I can't pivot from creativity to talking about him. Yes? And so I think, what do I know about Belgium? How can it be creative? And I paused for a moment and I said, see, whenever creativity is spoken about, people who are neurotypical, who are not neurodivergent creatives, always think that creativity is between Burna Boy and those who do poetry. But creativity is in every facet of human existence. Creativity is what forced the scientist to create plastic. When he saw that resin became expensive and people could not use resin in the olden days to be able to coat certain materials. Creativity is how the largest selling point of chocolate in the world is an airport. Creativity is when people were going through the Great Depression and all they had was potatoes. What country decided that they would cut it into little strips and decided to fry it and call it French fries? Creativity is taking regular waffles, pouring them into a different pan, creating deeper ridges so that you could pour chocolates in them, pour strawberries in them, and fill them up with more fillings. And now said, and now, the country responsible for giving us the French fries, the inventor of plastic, the Big Bang Theory, and the Belgian waffles, and the largest selling point of chocolate in the world, the Brussels airport. Please help me welcome the ambassador for Belgium. And the applause was louder than anything I had gotten that day. I was unprepared for that moment. But what? I pivoted. And I'll tell you this. That was a spontaneous moment, but it comes from one single thing I tell everybody who has studied under me. Spontaneity does not happen in the moment. Spontaneity is a muscle that must be trained. Spontaneity is a muscle and it must be trained. Your ability to be spontaneous on the spot comes from the structure and the systems you've built for yourself that you can fall back on. It takes a quarter of a second for the human body. I'm obsessed with boxing. For those of you who do not know, I boxed in school as well. Like I said, I did everything. It takes a quarter of a second, about 25 milliseconds, for the human boxer, as quick as they are, to be able to throw a punch. right? It takes the brain more than twice that same amount, the eyes and the brain, more than twice that same amount, to see that the punch is coming, anticipate it, and dodge. So how do you dodge a punch that is half as fast as your eyes can see? It is, we have trained reflexes. There is something called reflex training in boxing that is obsessively training one particular thing until your body does it without thinking. Your brain moves before your eyes can see. Your brain will move before your eyes can see. And people say, how is that possible? It happens all the time. Your reflexes happen all the time. And let me tell you one of the ones I do all the time because I'm very clumsy. You see my phones literally fall and they break all the time. My phone will fall and before I remember, I don't pull leg. And first thing I say is papillo. And I was about to feel myself. But it didn't click in my head to pull out my foot. But I know that at some point, my foot came out and I decided to catch it. You must be able to understand that storytelling is you taking creative freedom with presenting the facts. Spontaneity is a muscle that must be trained. And I'll end with these two and I'm done. I'm sorry I've gone past the time. I had a certain time in mind and I was giving less and I apologize. I'm going to pivot. The two biggest secrets for me as a communicator that have helped my life, and they did not come from me learning from somebody, they come from me being an avid experimenter. I've experimented so many times in my life. I've failed so many times in my life. And so I'm in a position to tell you that I've tested this one and it works. Two things. There is an American saying that people like to put is don't sweat the small stuff. By all means, sweat the small stuff. And I'll take you back to me changing somebody's shoes to change how he speaks. Sweat the small stuff. There's a rhyme about it. For want of a nail, the shoe was lost. For want of a shoe, the horse was lost. For want of a horse, the rider was lost. For want of a rider, the battle was lost. For want of the battle, the kingdom was lost. And for want of a nail, the entire kingdom was lost. It's the butterfly effect. It's that a butterfly could flap his wings here in Abuja, and that little thing will have a multiplier effect that would cause a hurricane somewhere in San Diego. Little things have big consequences. The small things are easy to do, but they are also easy not to do. It is as simple as saying for you to have an effective day, dress your bed when you first wake up in the morning. Yes, it's easy to do, but it's also easy not to do. Sweat the small stuff because they have the biggest differences. It is as simple as breathing differently. It is as simple as how you tie your shoes, the kind of food that you eat. Sweat the small stuff. And finally, I'll end with this. For anyone I've ever come across, and for anyone I've ever spoken in front of, and ever taught, the core of being a great speaker, great storyteller, is respect. Respect. If you respect the stage for the monster that it is, you would know that the stage is small enough for you to command it, but is big enough to swallow you whole. The stage is small enough for you to command it, but it is big enough to swallow you whole. Respect for the stage is why you prepare, is why you have courage. Respect for your audience is why you show up, is why you have materials. Respect for yourself is why you take out the time to listen to me, is why you take out the time to listen to Lady Iron, why you take out the time to listen to Isaac. Respect is at the core of every great public speaker. And I'm grateful that you have respect for yourselves because that respect has rubbed off on me. And it has been one of the greatest honors of my life to share with you this afternoon. Thank you. Take care. Until next time.